Hey everyone, welcome to ISLAMOPOD. I'm your host, and today we're diving into something absolutely mind-blowing: the hidden science of bees in the Quran. Let's start with the basics. The Quran, revealed over 1,300 plus years ago, an entire chapter dedicated to bees, Surah An-Nahl, which literally means the bee. Specifically, we're looking at verses 68 and 69. Here's the English translation of those verses. And your Lord inspired the bee, saying, take your habitations in the mountains and in the trees and in what they erect. They erect as in human structure. That's why you can get your bee to be living in a little box in the backyard. Anyhow, let's continue the verse. Then eat of all fruits and follow the ways of your Lord made easy for you. There comes forth from their bellies a drink of varying color, wherein is healing for men. Verily, in this is a sign for people who think. And since we are trying to be people who think, let's unpack these verses using the latest in AI deep search technology, and let's talk science and leave speculations aside to the best of our ability. Even though scientists usually call their speculation scientific theories. Anyhow. Part 1. DNA testing. Queen bees and worker bees both possess 16 pairs of chromosomes. Interestingly, the chapter titled The Bee in the Quran is also chapter 16. The first DNA test, a groundbreaking development in genetic science, was conducted by Sir Alec Jeffreys in 1984. Remarkably, there are 1,334 years between this pioneering DNA test and the full release of the Quran around 650 AD. Also, it's too much of it being a coincidence when the compilation process of the Quran took 23 years approximately to be completed, and this specific chapter ended up in a position that aligns with a scientific fact discovered centuries later. Part 2. The female bee. The Quran refers to the bee as she. In Arabic, the word for bee, nahl, is feminine, and the verbs used in these verses, like take your habitations, bitakidi, and eat of all fruits, kuli, are also in the feminine form. These commands were issued to the female bee and not the male for a reason. Why is this a big deal? Because in a bee colony, it's the female worker bees that do all the heavy lifting. They're the ones collecting nectar, building hives, and making honey. The males, they're just there to mate with the queen and then die. The queen herself is busy laying eggs, but it's the female workers who run the show. The scientific understanding that worker bees are female was established between 1637 and 1680 during the 17th century, thanks to the work of scientists like John Swammerdam. So it took scientists approximately 900 plus years after the Quran to confirm that worker bees are female. Part 3. Honey from the belly of the bee. The Quran says, there comes forth from their bellies a drink of varying color. The Arabic word here is butuniha, their bellies. Science backs this up big time. Worker bees have a special organ called the honey stomach. This is their honey factory. They don't get it directly from the flower or plant they are on. When a bee hits a flower, she slurps nectar with her tongue, stores it in this pouch, and enzymes start breaking it down, kicking off the honey-making process right there. But here's where it gets wild, and I caught this digging into the Arabic. Butuniha isn't singular. It's plural, meaning bellies, not just one stomach. Check this out. After collecting nectar, the bee flies back to the hive and passes it to her sisters. That nectar can bounce from bee to bee, sometimes multiple times. Each time it lands in another bee's honey stomach, where more enzymes tweak it, refining it step by step until it's the honey we know. Over 1,300 years ago, people might have guessed honey came from inside the bee, but knowing it starts in a specific organ, and not just one bee but a chain of them, that's insane detail for the time. They had no tools to peek inside a bee, let alone track the nectar going from one bee to the other. Part 4. Navigation. Divine GPS. The Quran says God inspired the bee to follow the ways of your Lord made easy. Poetic? Sure. But the science? Unreal. Bees are navigation wizards, and it's like they've got a divine cheat code. Check this. Bees zip up to 6 miles or 9 kilometers from their hive to hit flowers. Me and you? We need GPS for half that, and Google still sends us to sketchy spots where we are like, are we getting kidnapped here? Bees use the sun's position and polarized light, stuff we can't see without crazy tech gear. A cloudy day? Doesn't faze them, they nail it every time. For them, it's made easy, like a built-in GPS, no satellites required. But it's not just the trip. Back at the hive, they do this waggle dance. Tail shakes at exact angles to pinpoint a location, mapping the spot. 1 second of waggle, roughly a kilometer. Direction, distance, all coded in, or as the Quran puts it, inspired. Their sisters decoded on the spot and boom, straight to the flower patch. These master navigators run this with a brain smaller than a sesame seed, 3 million neurons. Compare that to the giant satellites rerouting us when we miss a turn. It's too perfect. God inspired them with a system that made it all seem so smooth and easy, despite us knowing how complex it is to find your way around this planet. Part 5. Hive Design and Habitats. The Quran says bees take habitations in the mountains and in the trees and in what they erect, ending with a sign for people who think. Me and AI did the thinking and found something interesting. Zooming in on their habitats, the honeycombs, worker bees create these perfect 6-sided cells, each with 120-degree angles. Why this shape? Because it's the most efficient way to store the most honey using the least amount of wax. It's also incredibly strong. Hexagons distribute weight evenly, making the comb resistant to collapse. It's so smart, engineers copy it for airplane panels. Each hex cell's gotta be uniform. Tiny flaws mess up strength or weight. Bees do this with wax from their bodies. Humans need multi-step industrial setups. CNC machines, heat presses, quality checks with lasers or X-rays. Takes hours to days per airplane panel. Specialized factories, skilled workers, millions in gear. Bees, minutes per comb, no budget or a PhD. In terms of evolution, bees got 3 million neurons, and I am rounding this up across their whole nervous system for simplicity. Humans have 86 billion neurons, and we are the ones learning from bees. That tiny brain nailing complex geometry across any location, mountains, trees, any human structure isn't random. It's a design screaming at us. To think, who's behind that brilliance? Part 6. Varying colors. A pharmacy in a jar. Now let's hit honey itself. The Quran calls it a drink of varying color, wherein is healing for men. 1300 years or so, people knew honey could heal, an ancient trick, no surprise there. But varying color right before healing? That's the hook. Science confirms that darker honeys have higher levels of polyphenols, which have antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties. The Quran ties color to healing, as it knows not all honey is created equal when it comes to its healing properties. Honey's healing power depends on where the bees buzz. Mountain regions like New Zealand and Yemen produce rare infection-fighting varieties. Tree-rich zones in Europe and Australia offer recovery and respiratory relief. Agricultural areas in North America provide abundant, heart-healthy options, while wetlands in the U.S. give us blood sugar-friendly honey. The science backs this up. Local flora shapes the nectar, and the nectar shapes the cure. Part 7. Hive location. The Quran didn't just name a chapter after the bee, Surah An-Nahl. It handed her the keys to keeping this planet alive. From mountains to trees to human structures, her extreme adaptability shines where other pollinators, butterflies, bats, birds, robotic pollinators, can't cut it. The Himalayan giant bee rules the cliffs, the forest titan bee owns the canopy, the city worker bee thrives in our chaos, building hives anywhere and pollinating everything. Simply put, take out these tiny heroes, and life on Earth as you know it shifts. Hard. The extinction of bees isn't just a loss. It's an apocalyptic unraveling, a collapse of ecosystems that'd turn Earth into a barren wasteland, rivaling Mars' lifeless dust in some areas. That's our deep dive into the hidden science of bees in the Quran, proof of a sign for those who reflect. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Thanks for tuning in to ISLAMOPOD. Peace be upon you.